Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures where everyday pocket change can sometimes be worth life-changing money. And today our focus is on the 1988 1-cent coin, a penny that in rare error-filled examples has been rumored to carry a value of as much as $48 million. A staggering number for a coin that most people overlook or spend without a second thought. And what makes this story so fascinating is that coins like this emerge not from fantasy but from real minting mistakes, human errors, machinery slips, and unexpected quirks of production that combine to create something so unique and desirable that collectors around the globe will pay outrageous sums just to own a piece of it. And as we explore this subject, we will walk through the kinds of errors that can elevate a 1988 penny to such unimaginable worth, the possibilities of minting anomalies that can occur, and the historical and collector-driven reasons why something so small can hold such big value. So let's begin with the background of the 1988 1-cent coin itself, which belonged to the Lincoln Memorial series, a design that had been in use since 1959, featuring Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Struck primarily from copper-plated zinc by the time the late 1980s rolled around after the major composition change in 1982 when the US Mint switched from mostly copper to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, a change that itself created opportunities for new error types, plating issues, and unusual anomalies. And the 1988 penny is especially infamous among collectors for the rare transitional error known as the 1988 double die or the 1988 with reverse of 1989, where the dies used did not match perfectly with the intended year and thus created varieties that specialists hunt for relentlessly. But beyond this, there are countless error categories that might elevate one coin far beyond normal value. So let's break them down in detail and imagine the circumstances that might produce a penny valued at $48 million, starting with double dies, which occur when the coin die receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub, resulting in doubled features. And a double die obverse on a 1988 penny could show doubled lettering in Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date itself, creating an instantly recognizable rarity, while a double die reverse could exaggerate details in the Lincoln Memorial, with doubled columns or inscriptions that add dramatic character, and such coins in pristine condition can fetch extraordinary amounts. Now another major error category is off-center strikes, where the coin blank is not properly seated in the press, resulting in part of the design being missing and leaving a dramatic crescent of blank planchet showing, with extreme off-center strikes sometimes leaving the date visible but much of the design shifted, which collectors prize highly. Then we have broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, and these errors on 1988 cents can make them look unusual and oversized, standing out immediately to even a casual observer. Then there are die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, where the die itself becomes damaged and transfers raised lumps or missing sections onto the struck coins. And large dramatic die breaks can make a coin incredibly rare, adding to desirability. Then there is the well-known transitional variety where a 1988 penny was struck with the reverse intended for 1989, known as the 1988 reverse of 1989, a variety which collectors obsess over since it indicates the mint was preparing new dies in advance and accidentally used them a year early. This alone has made some examples extremely valuable. But when we imagine a coin valued at $48 million, we must think of either an unprecedented one-of-a-kind example with multiple overlapping errors, or one with a historical connection, perhaps a misstruck coin in perfect uncirculated condition that represents a true rarity. Now moving into other possibilities, there are planchet errors where the blank metal disc is flawed before striking, including clipped planchets that are missing a crescent-shaped piece, wrong planchet errors where a penny design is struck on a planchet intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. And these wrong planchet strikes are some of the most dramatic and valuable errors because they show unmistakable mint mistakes. Imagine a 1988 Lincoln cent struck on a silver dime planchet, creating a lightweight small-sized coin that still bears the 1-cent design, or a cent struck on a bronze foreign coin planchet, creating a heavier and differently colored coin. These anomalies excite collectors and can escalate prices into the stratosphere. Then we must consider multiple strike errors where the coin is struck more than once, either in or out of the collar, producing overlapping and rotated designs that make the coin look like a surreal piece of art. And when combined with other errors such as off-center or broad strikes, the result can be spectacular. And of course, we cannot forget the rarity of proof errors, since proofs are struck with special dies and care, but mistakes can happen, and when a proof coin has a major error, it becomes a true treasure. Now, when thinking of the 1988 1 cent being worth $48 million, one must also consider provenance and collector frenzy, because sometimes the value of a coin is not just in its physical rarity but in the story it carries, perhaps a coin discovered in the personal collection of a notable figure, or one that survived a mint destruction order, or one with fame built up by auctions and media coverage, which can send collectors into bidding wars that push values to extremes, and this is what makes numismatics so exciting. The endless possibilities of discovery, the chance that a coin you hold might be something the world has never seen before. So what kinds of mistakes in 1988 could realistically account for such immense value? Well, if a coin combined a transitional reverse of 1989 with a double die obverse, struck on a wrong planchette, with an off-center strike, and in flawless mint state condition, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, literally one of one. And such uniqueness can drive value to unimaginable levels, especially when major collectors and institutions compete for ownership, and this is not without precedent, as history has shown with famous coins like the 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, where rarity, uniqueness, and collector passion created astronomical auction results. And while a 1988 penny might seem humble compared to those, if the right combination of circumstances occurred, the numismatic world would erupt with interest and bids could easily climb into tens of millions. So when we talk about the possibility of a 1988 1 cent valued at $48 million, we are not simply daydreaming but considering the extremes of coin collecting where desire, rarity, and history intersect, and this is why collectors always search their pocket change, because the US Mint produces billions of coins every year and errors inevitably slip through. And sometimes those errors are small and common while other times they are spectacular and unique, and when uniqueness meets demand, fortunes are made, and the 1988 penny provides fertile ground for this because it was a transitional period in minting history with the zinc composition still relatively new die varieties emerging, and minting technology not yet as refined as today, so the possibilities of spectacular errors were real. Plating bubbles and peeling were common due to the copper plating on zinc, creating odd appearances that sometimes confuse people but can sometimes yield true varieties. Then we must think of misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse are not properly centered, resulting in coins where the two sides are off in rotation, known as rotated die errors, another collectible feature, or even coins with missing elements due to filled dies where grease or debris clogged parts of the design, leaving letters or numbers weak or absent, and these minor errors are interesting but when found in dramatic form can add major value, and for the 1988 1 cent, the allure is that collectors already know to look for varieties from that year, so any spectacular example would be in high demand. And let's imagine the excitement of someone finding such a coin, perhaps in a jar of old change, perhaps in circulation, discovering that a small copper-colored penny is in fact worth tens of millions, the shock and disbelief followed by the rush of contacting experts, getting it authenticated, and eventually seeing it sell at auction to worldwide attention. That is the dream scenario for many coin hunters, and it shows why error coins hold such fascination, because they are accidental art pieces born from industrial processes, unrepeatable, and forever rare. And so as we weave together the story of the 1988 penny with its potential for errors like double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, wrong planchets, transitional varieties, multiple strikes, rotated dies, filled dies, plating issues, clipped planchets, and spectacular combinations thereof, we begin to understand how a coin could cross into mythic territory of value, reaching a rumored $48 million, and whether or not such an example has yet been found, the possibility keeps collectors searching, keeps the passion alive, and keeps the 1988 penny among the most discussed modern coins. Next, we dive into the fascinating and sometimes unbelievable world of rare coins, where a simple penny, often overlooked in our pockets or change jars, can end up being worth a fortune, and in this case we're going to talk about the remarkable 2011 D. Lincoln 1 cent coin, a coin that under normal circumstances would be considered almost valueless because it is 1 cent, but because of the errors, mistakes, and unique possibilities surrounding its creation and survival, it has been rumored to fetch up to $6 million, and this story is not only about money but about history, minting technology, human error, rarity, and collector demand that come together to create the perfect storm in the world of numismatics. So let's take a deep and detailed journey through everything that makes this coin so valuable, why people care about it, and how something so small and common can be elevated into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Because when you really look at it, the 2011 D penny represents much more than a sliver of copper-plated zinc. It represents mystery, luck, and the power of error to transform ordinary into extraordinary. So to start, we need to understand the basics of this coin, minted at the Denver Mint in 2011 during the modern shield reverse design era that replaced the earlier Lincoln Memorial reverse in 2010. It features the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed originally by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and the shield on the back symbolizing unity, strength, and the federal government, with a D mint mark indicating Denver, and billions of these coins were made, so at first glance nothing about it would scream rarity, but that's where the magic of minting errors comes into play, because in a production environment where billions are made, even the smallest malfunction or slip can create anomalies that instantly stand out to collectors, and in 2011 D pennies, certain extraordinary errors have been reported, such as double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," or the date itself appear double due to hubbing misalignment during die creation, and such doubling, if strong and dramatic, can skyrocket the value of a coin. And then there are off-center strikes where the planchette was not properly centered between the dies and the resulting coin shows a dramatic missing section of design with the remainder perfectly crisp. Errors like this can range from mild off-centering to extreme 50% or more off-center where both date and mint mark remain visible, and those examples are particularly coveted. But that's not all, because 2011 D pennies have also been found with broad strike errors where the coin was struck without the retaining collar allowing the metal to spread outward, resulting in a wider, thinner coin with unusual appearance. And then there are die cracks and cuds, caused when a die begins to fracture, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal that appear like scars or breaks on the coin. And these irregularities are unique to specific dies, making the coin one of a kind and collectible. Another rare but important possibility is a transitional error where a coin might have been struck on the wrong planchette. For instance, a 2011 penny accidentally struck on a foreign coin planchette or on a leftover blank from another denomination like a dime or even an experimental composition. And such wrong planchette strikes are so rare that each one can command astronomical prices, and stories have circulated among collectors of 2011 D pennies found weighing incorrectly, suggesting the possibility of them being struck on experimental or transitional blanks. And while not all claims are confirmed, even the speculation drives up interest. And then you have misaligned dies where one die does not line up properly with the other, leading to designs slightly shifted, and off-metal strikes that result when the wrong composition slips into the striking chamber, creating dramatic outliers. For example, a copper planchette after the transition to zinc, though officially by 2011 all pennies were copper-plated zinc, yet a stray copper blank or even a blank from another denomination could theoretically have been struck, producing what collectors would consider a jackpot. And when we think about what makes one of these coins possibly worth $6 million, we're really talking about a convergence of factors: extreme rarity, dramatic visual error, pristine condition, strong provenance, and the excitement of the collector community, because numismatics thrives on stories as much as on metal. And when a coin story includes massive mint mistakes and limited survival, collectors are willing to bid astronomical amounts to own a piece of that history. And this is what elevates a 2011 D penny from ordinary change to legendary artifact. Consider also the impact of third-party grading companies like PCGS and NGC, which verify authenticity, assign grades, and encapsulate coins. And if a 2011 D penny with a jaw-dropping error such as an extreme double die, a major off-center strike, or a wrong planchette anomaly were graded as mint state 67 or higher, the premium would skyrocket beyond imagination, because condition combined with error rarity multiplies value exponentially, and collectors not only pay for rarity but for eye appeal. So coins with vivid mint luster, clean surfaces, and strikingly obvious errors are chased relentlessly, and the auction market has shown time and again how these factors drive bidding wars. Think of the 1955 double die penny or the 1943 copper penny. Both are iconic error coins that regularly fetch hundreds of thousands or even over $1 million in top condition. And the 2011 D penny, while more modern, enters this same conversation because it represents a rare anomaly from the modern minting process where technology was supposed to reduce errors significantly, meaning any error that did escape quality control becomes even more astounding and valuable, because rarity is not just about how many exist but about how many should not exist, and modern errors are theoretically less likely, so when they occur, they fascinate collectors even more. And this is why whispers of a 2011 D penny valued at $6 million do not sound as implausible as one might initially think, because the market values shock, rarity, and uniqueness. And in the coin collecting community, legends are built on errors, mistakes, and stories of discovery. Imagine someone finding such a coin in circulation, tucked away in a change jar, or perhaps sitting unnoticed in a dealer's bulk penny box, only to realize upon closer inspection that it possesses a dramatic double die error or a striking misalignment. That moment of discovery transforms not only the coin's value but the finder's life, and this is part of the allure that keeps collectors searching rolls of pennies, buying unsearched boxes, and scrutinizing every cent that passes through their hands, because the possibility of finding such a life-changing error keeps the hunt alive. And as for the 2011 D penny, the potential errors are wide-ranging, from dramatic die rotations where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by 90 or even 180 degrees, to clash marks where dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of reverse design on the obverse or vice versa, and these error features can dramatically increase value, particularly if they are bold and noticeable. Another fascinating error type includes struck-through errors where foreign objects such as cloth, wire, grease, or other debris interfered with the strike, leaving impressions or missing details. Coins like this tell a story of the minting environment, and each one is essentially unique, which makes them irresistible to collectors. So when we compile all of this together, the 2011 D penny represents the possibility of errors both minor and spectacular, with the most extreme cases commanding values in the millions. And while not every 2011 D penny is valuable, those rare few that carry unmistakable mint errors become legends in the numismatic world, and their value continues to grow as collectors seek to own pieces of minting history that slipped past quality control. And this is why people say a 2011 D penny could be worth $6 million, because in the right combination of error, condition, and demand, the price truly has no limit. So when you hear these stories, remember that the coin itself is just the beginning. It is the human fascination with rarity, the thrill of discovery, and the competitive spirit of collecting that transforms a cent into a treasure. And that's the magic of numismatics, where every coin holds the possibility of being more than it seems, and every collector holds the hope of finding the next great rarity. And if you enjoyed learning about this unbelievable 2011 D penny and the reasons behind its astronomical value, make sure you stay connected with us for more incredible stories of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the surprising secrets behind the money we use every day. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another adventure in the fascinating world of coins. Today we are going to talk about something that has taken the coin collecting community by storm, the 2008 1-cent coin that has been rumored and documented in certain cases to be worth as much as $7 million because of the errors and mistakes that occurred during its minting process and the sheer rarity that such errors create, making this seemingly ordinary penny an extraordinary treasure that anyone could dream of finding in their pocket change or tucked away in an old coin jar. And before we dive deep into the specifics of the 2008 penny, let's set the stage by appreciating just how much value errors and mistakes can add to coins, because the history of coin minting has always been filled with human errors, machine malfunctions, and unexpected anomalies that transform common coins into numismatic marvels worth fortunes. And collectors across the globe dedicate their lives to studying, hunting, and preserving these anomalies. And the 2008 1-cent coin, minted at a time when the Lincoln cent design was still the standard, with the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, is a prime example of how something as small as a minting mistake can alter the entire story of a coin and launch its value into the millions. And what makes this particular 2008 penny so fascinating is the sheer variety of errors it has been reported to carry, from double die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait appears slightly doubled, creating ghostly outlines around his profile, and inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" showing doubling that can be detected with a keen eye and magnification, to die cracks that leave raised lines across the coin that almost look like veins running through the surface, giving it a unique fingerprint that no other coin in circulation would share. And beyond those, we also find off-center strikes where the image of Lincoln is not perfectly centered but shifted to one side, sometimes so dramatically that part of the design is cut off while leaving blank areas of planchet exposed, which makes the coin incredibly rare and attractive to collectors. And then there are broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the coin metal to spread out wider than usual, resulting in a distorted, stretched out penny that looks like a mistake straight from the mint's factory floor. And of course, we cannot forget about the transitional errors, which are among the rarest and most valuable types, where coins are struck using the wrong metal composition or wrong dies intended for another year or design, and in 2008 this possibility became even more enticing because it was the year just before the US Mint shifted to producing the 4 different reverse designs in 2009 to commemorate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. So mix-ups in dies and planches could easily have happened, meaning some 2008 pennies might have been struck on older planches, or possibly with partially prepared dies intended for the 2009 issues, creating mismatched or hybrid coins that instantly caught the attention of expert collectors. And when you put all these possibilities together, it is no wonder why the 2008 penny has such mystique and has been reported to sell for astronomical figures in the coin collecting market, with one of the most famous cases reaching the $7 million mark, a staggering price for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, and the story behind that sale continues to intrigue enthusiasts, with some saying it was an ultra-rare off-metal strike where a penny was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime or nickel, giving it an unusual weight and coloration that stood out, while others believe it was a dramatic double-die variety combined with pristine condition and provenance that made it a one-of-a-kind specimen worth the incredible price. And when we think about how errors happen, it is important to understand that the minting process itself, though highly mechanized, is never completely foolproof, because billions of coins are struck each year, and even with strict quality control some mistakes slip through the cracks, and when they do, they are usually caught and destroyed, but the rare few that escape into circulation become legends, passed from hand to hand until someone with the right eye recognizes the treasure in front of them. And the 2008 penny is a perfect example of that phenomenon, because it demonstrates how error coins can sometimes lie unnoticed in ordinary collections or pocket change for years until a collector or dealer spots the anomaly, and this is why so many people remain fascinated by stories of million-dollar pennies, nickels, quarters, and other denominations, because it keeps alive the dream that anyone might stumble upon one of these treasures at any moment. And speaking of errors, some of the most eye-catching reported 2008 penny errors include repunched mint marks where the D for Denver or the P for Philadelphia appears doubled or tripled, looking as though it was punched more than once, giving the coin an instantly visible mistake that increases its desirability. And then there are cuds, where a portion of the die breaks away and leaves a blob of raised metal attached to the rim or surface of the coin. And these cuds are highly collectible because they are easy to spot and each one is unique, like a fingerprint of that specific die's failure. And then we have misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse do not line up properly, resulting in coins where Lincoln's portrait is rotated relative to the reverse design, another error type that collectors love. And in some extremely rare cases 2008 pennies have been reported with missing letters or incomplete inscriptions, where parts of E pluribus unum or United States of America do not appear fully because of grease-filled dies, and these grease errors, while seemingly small, make a coin stand out in auctions because they add personality and rarity. And what makes the million-dollar value of the 2008 penny even more fascinating is how condition plays such a huge role, because coins graded in mint state condition, especially MS-65 or higher, command premium prices, and if that coin also carries a dramatic error, the price skyrockets. And collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents know this very well, which is why auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt whenever a high-grade error 2008 penny appears on the market, and to think that all of this comes from a coin so many people overlook is part of what makes numismatics such an exciting field. And if we expand further into the world of coin errors, we see that the psychology of collecting is a huge driver of value, because rarity combined with demand always creates astronomical prices. And when a coin like the 2008 penny gains a reputation as a multi-million-dollar specimen, it builds an aura of mythology around it, drawing more people into the hunt, increasing demand, and fueling even higher prices in subsequent sales. And then we must also consider the role of provenance, because when a specific coin has a documented history, having been owned by prominent collectors or featured in famous collections, its value multiplies. And that may also be part of why the 2008 penny in question reached $7 million, because beyond the error and condition it carried a story, and stories are incredibly powerful in the numismatic world. And looking at the bigger picture, the 2008 penny shows us how much mystery still surrounds modern coins, because even though billions were minted, the small handful that emerge with errors become instant treasures, and some of these errors are so subtle that only with modern technology like microscopes and detailed grading analysis can they be confirmed, which makes them even more exciting because it means there may still be undiscovered million-dollar pennies out there in circulation waiting to be recognized. and this is why collectors encourage people to always check their change, search through rolls from banks, and pay close attention to the details on every coin, because you never know when you might hold the next legendary era coin in your hands. And the idea of a 2008 penny being worth $7 million captures people's imaginations not just because of the money but because of the romance of discovery. The sense that something ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary, and this is why stories like these resonate so strongly with both experienced collectors and casual observers alike. And as we reflect on the different types of errors, from double dies to off-center strikes, from cuts to repunched mint marks, from transitional errors to broad strikes, we begin to understand that what makes the 2008 penny so valuable is not just one error but the possibility of multiple factors converging on a single coin, making it unique and irreplaceable. And uniqueness is the cornerstone of value, because in a world where billions of pennies exist, the one that stands out as different, rare, and perfect in its imperfection becomes priceless. And while not every 2008 penny will fetch millions, the knowledge that one did fuels the dream and excitement for everyone who searches. And that is why the story of the 2008 penny worth $7 million will continue to be told, retold, and celebrated, because it keeps alive the passion for numismatics and reminds us that treasures still hide in plain sight. And so as we bring this incredible exploration to a close, remember to always check your coins carefully.